Now at the Home Depot, receive 12 months special financing and free basic installation on carpet projects with LifeProof with pet-proof technology, Home Decorators Collection, and Traffic Master carpets. Bring a new look to your floors, or give them a durable surface that stands up to life's tough messes. Get 12 months special financing on installed carpet projects right now at the Home Depot. Offer valid March 12th through March 29th, 2026. Exclusions and additional charges may apply. For licenses, see homedepot.com/license numbers.
Bank of America champions everyone who dares to ask, what would you like the power to do? As a coach to 16 competitors in Augusta National Women's Amateurs, I ask myself this question every season. To help my athletes keep their eye on the ball, far beyond any course they play. Bank of America is proud to be a presenting partner of the Augusta National Women's Amateur.
Bank of America N.A. member FDIC.
Are you stuck staring at your W-2? Are tax refund worries holding you back? You probably have FOMO, the fear of messing up. The fix? Using TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They find every credit and deduction to help you get every refund dollar you deserve, or your money back. It's time to overcome your fear of messing up and get your taxes done right. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
We start with the champions, Kieran O'Donovan, the Chicago Bears, who won the NFC North, of course, as I remember well last year. Ben Johnson said, Bears head coach says, everybody starts from scratch. The Bears, like the Packers, who we'll get to, actually let quite a lot of players go in free agency. So you're looking at probably the key position of need for the Bears being edge rusher. Not sure they're going to get that at 25th in the first round. They also have some holes to pick in the secondary. It would be a brave person who would suggest that they're going offense in the first round this year. I suppose primarily because they loaded up on skill players and did a pretty good job last year landing starters in Kyle Monungai, Luther Burden, and in their first overall pick, Colston Loveland last year. So everybody's suggesting that the Bears will go defense. What's your view?
Yeah, it seems to be trending towards defense, and possibly the secondary, maybe getting a safety to pair with Kobe Bryant. And that's just from just reading around today. We were all highly complimentary of the Bears offseason last year, both the draft and and what they did in free agency. Now, one of those big players that they brought in was Drew Dahlman. Drew Dahlman they've lost, so center again is another need for them. You're looking at, and anything I say about potential prospects and potential draft depths, please feel free, Kieran, to come in and fact check me and correct me. But it does seem to be more of a defensive, a defensive draft class in terms of depth and value. So I think you're looking at safety. You're looking at potential D line, an edge rusher to complement Montez Sweat. They've done really well in drafting and developing in the last couple of years, and as I said, in free agency. But as you said, there's a long list of names gone out the door. They've lost DJ Moore. They do have confidence in that young receiving core. Maybe later on in that draft, they go pick up another wide receiver, maybe in the second round. They do have an extra second round pick. Am I right in saying that? So they have 2 in the second round.
Yeah, they got a second round pick from the Bills in the DJ Moore trade, actually. So they do have 2 second round picks.
Yeah, so I'm comparing and contrasting them with the likes of the Packers, but they have for a team that did so well last year, they're well set up at the front end of the of the draft. So they do have a lot of options if they're not going to, because they're late in the first round, if they're not going to get an absolute out and out blue chip stud, one of the more highly touted players, they are well positioned to get some value in that late in that first round and early in the second round. But yeah, no, that's where I see it happening. I think the safety position, center, D-line. In fact, I think there's going to be a trend, right across this NFC North. I think it's one of the less sexy divisions in terms of the positions that they're drafting. It really is kind of bolstering those, getting down in the trenches and bolstering those important positions.
Kieran Boyle, anyone watching the Bears last year would have said that their pass rush was way below where it needed to be. Montez Sweat did rack up 10 sacks last year, but otherwise no Chicago Bear was getting anywhere near the quarterback. They leaned very heavily into being able to take the ball away, and did that very well, which is a very volatile stat that doesn't tend to be consistent from season to season. Bears really did get the bounce of the ball there, and it's pretty clear that they know that they did and that they're targeting improvement, which is probably one of the reasons why they let so many players go on the defensive side of the ball, because after all, outside of those takeaways, they were one of the worst defenses in the NFL last year. It's interesting, though, if you look at, and it was Hogan Jans broke this down on their podcast, so I'm giving them due credit, what Ryan Poles has done as general manager in Chicago. He's only invested 2 picks in defensive ends in his 3 drafts to date. Hasn't picked a D end higher than the 5th round. In fact, they invested more draft capital in the punter, Torrey Taylor, who they took in the 3rd round last year, than they've ever invested in a defensive end. So it's probably no surprise that the Bears are struggling to get pressure up front. The teams that do this well invest draft capital, like the Philadelphia Eagles, who are the standout example here. They've put high round picks into the trenches every year because that's how you build championship caliber teams.
Right. And this is a D that led the league, like you said, in takeaways with 33, but they gave up a lot of yards. I think they averaged giving up 361.8 yards, and that was 29th, I believe, in the league. So you're right. There's a big hole and there's a big need to be addressed with defense. And again, luckily, it seems to be a fairly defensive laden draft. So it's good timing for the Bears. Did they? I mean, before we talk about that, you got to look at who else they lost. I mean, Brisker losing Kevin Bayard, Tremaine Edmonds to the Giants, Jonathan Owens. You know, there's a lot of holes to fill, and there's a reason they let those guys go. They knew this draft was laden with, you know, solid defensive players. Where they're going to pick, I mean, they have the 25th pick, so you're probably looking at the blue chippers that are probably all going to be gone by the time he gets to 25. Saying that, there are a lot of nice pieces still left in there. You got to look at D tackle. I think they're going to look at D tackle. There's a couple of, I mean, Craig mentioned Peter Woods out of Clemson, and again, I've sent in the group chat some ferocious 2-3 minute videos of him just destroying people. Take a look at this guy, Caleb Banks. He's a big tackle out of Florida, 6'6", 330 pounds. Now, he did miss a lot of 2025 with an injury, but he really wowed people at the Combine. So I'm looking at him to be in that kind of late 1st round area, as well as Kristen Miller out of Georgia. Again, not as big as Caleb Banks, but I think they're going to look at D tackle. I think they're going to start focusing into that, as well as linebacker. Now, they've lost Edmonds. They're going to need a couple more big hitters. So I'm looking at, you know, Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech. Players like that. I think they're going to go heavy on D tackle and linebacker. Edge, I'm not so sure that's what they're going to focus on in the 1st round, but it's something, you know, they've got to stop that run. They've got to, you know, shore up all those leaking yards that they were giving away, especially in the tail end of the season. And, you know, it didn't really come back to bite them that much, but they've got to address, bottom line is they got to address the giving up 360 yards per game. I mean, that's you know, that's got to be addressed. So I think tackle is going to be D tackle is going to be their main focus. And I think they're going to start looking at some of these linebackers. Again, players like Reese and Styles, they'll be gone. Look at CJ Allen, just throwing some names out there just to kind of get familiar with. But I'd really like the kid Rodriguez out of Texas Tech. And I think they might start looking, especially, you know, you're into the late part of the 1st round. Teams are going to look around and see who else picked edge rusher, who else picked tackle, who else picked linebacker. Maybe there's something in this class. Maybe it's in this particular position. Let's start looking at that. So I think that might be a factor as well. So, but again, definitely a defensive focus for the Bears. The offense, I mean, it's got the pieces it needs right now. Last year they did all of the hard work with the draft and free agency. So I'm thinking a focus on the front and probably in middle linebacker as well.
Brian, as you say it, and as Kieran Boyle says it, the Bears have that relative luxury of not really needing anyone in any of the premium positions, at least offensively. Edge rusher, obviously, being the one exception to the premium position of need that they do need to fill. That being the case, the Bears can probably flip into best player available as they go through this draft. And if the right guy falls to them, you know, they may go for a wide receiver. They may look to pick up value in this draft rather than necessarily fixating on something that they're probably not necessarily going to get, particularly with their 1st round pick.
You're probably leaning into a Ben Johnson model there, Conor, aren't you, where he wants more and more weapons. We spoke recently about them bringing in a Lions wide receiver and Raymond too. He had a really good contribution when he was the Lions offensive coordinator. It always feels like he wants that additional weapon. I'll throw another kind of piece out there. Like, is there a scenario where if there's someone really there that Ben Johnson wants, and obviously he convinces Ryan Pauls, they don't shift that second round pick from the Bills? Bearing in mind that Bills second round pick is a late second round pick, nearly into the third round. Conor, if they saw someone in the fourth round they really wanted to move up for, if there's a wide receiver dropping because there's a run on different players in different positions, do the Bears make that explosive move? Because
you go back to that draft where Brad Holmes took Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs early, and people were going, that's crazy. Why would you take a running back that early? Well, it was because they had trust in Ben Johnson as offensive coordinator, and they thought they had something in Jahmyr Gibbs, and they did. Yeah,
absolutely, and that's it. Like, that's that kind of explosive player, and player additional to what they've got. I don't think the offensive line actually is in play. Like Garrett Bradbury trade to bring him in, I think he will go in as your centre. They brought in Jedrick Willis with a bit of a prove it deal. He was a first round pick with the Browns a couple of years back. I think there's an opportunity for him maybe to kind of solidify his career again. Like, I think the offensive line is actually in a good position. I think it's either an explosive player or the guys get their wish and they go after a pass rusher, which is an immediate need. Also, you spoke about it time and time again, Conor, where they were getting hosed, and Kieran alluded with the stats there in terms of what they were giving up. Like, is there a secondary need there that they go after? Maybe that's a later round selection.
Spring starts at the Home Depot, and we are bringing the heat to your backyard this season. Fire up the flavor with our wide variety of grills for under $300, like the Next Grill 4-burner gas grill that's perfect for hosting your spring cookout. Then set the scene and turn your outdoor space into the go-to spot with patio sets for every budget. Bring it this season with grills that deliver flavor and patios that set the vibe from the Home Depot. Start your spring with low prices guaranteed at the Home Depot. Exclusions apply. See homedepot.com/price match for details.
Suffering from dry, tired, irritated eyes? Don't let dry eyes win. Use Sustain Pro. It hydrates, restores, and protects dry eyes for up to 12 hours. Sustain Pro. Triple action dry eye relief.
With its 2 juicy beef patties, 3 slices of melted cheese, and tangy Big Arch sauce, the Big Arch is what happens when you start making a McDonald's burger and never stop. The Big Arch, the most McDonald's burger yet, for a limited time.
Hey, I'm Josh Spiegel, host of the podcast Lunatic in the Newsroom. If you enjoy journalism that drifts into mild panic, wild overthinking, and a guaranteed nervous breakdown, Lunatic in the Newsroom is for you. It's news like you've never heard before. The only newsroom with a panic button. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and gasp in horror as the show spirals completely out of control. It's not just news, it's emotionally unstable. Lunatic in the Newsroom. Listen today.